You know, tried to do this video last night, was taking out the trash can and recycling can and, well, a lawn can, if you will, grass can. You know, basically the trash and stuff for the city to pick up today. But I've decided I'm going to redo it because I want to give more detail. You see, I said this on Facebook and I'm going to say it again. This will not be the first time, nor will it probably be the last. But it will not be the first time that I not watch Raw when it happens. It won't be. Pretty much, the last time I did this was back in 2010 when they did the whole John Cena deal being fired with the Nexus. I watched it because pretty much I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew the end result. And why? Because I had seen that kind of storyline before. And it's not because I was a John Cena fan and still am. It's more along the lines of it's the same storyline we've seen rehashed over and over. And it's the same thing here. In fact, I've read what several people have said about Raw last night. Some are giving this angle a chance, and some are like, why are we getting the same crap we've gotten before? Why is it every time there's an authority figure in charge, basically they gotta be involved in a story that screws over the person that's against the establishment, the anti-established individual, the person that really wants change? Well, because it's obviously a story that works. But it's the same story we've seen time and time again. I mean, you could throw in different elements here and there to spice things up, make things interesting. But the truth of the matter is it's the same result day in and day out. We pretty much know what's going to happen. I mean, last night you had Daniel Bryan get beat, humiliated, escorted out by security, comes back in, and ends up ending the show by getting beat down by the Shield and RKO'd by Randy Orton. How many times have we seen this before? And then you have Ziggler and Show getting destroyed by the Shield, all because they're not like, oh, great idea, Mr. McMahon, you are right. It's the same thing. It's like the WWE creative is thinking, okay, we're going to do something different. And it's not. It's like it's different components, same story. It's like, you know, basically you're going to be like, what are they going to do? Keep screwing people over unless they say, hey, great idea. Come on, honestly, it's not going to work. It's not really going to work. Now, unless, of course, they take the McMahons and Triple H off for a while and just let Maddox do the bidding for them, that might work. That might give the anti-establishment an advantage. But again, we don't know. You see, to me, I think they need to add a more realistic standpoint to it. It can't be just an angle about size and looks. There's got to be more realism to it. There's got to be. Like, for example, you know, have Vince McMahon come out and say, hey, either two things. Have McMahon come out and say that the reason, kind of like almost like a work shoot if you want to, because those work, and those are interesting. Put a little realism in it, or a lot of realism into a work shoot. Have McMahon or Triple H or somebody come out and say, hey, the reason we don't want Daniel Bryan to be champion is we don't want to go through the same things we did with CM Punk and have our most prestigious championship end up in the middle of the card. End up being defended in the middle of the card instead of the main event where it should be. Or have Vince come out or somebody come out and say, hey, the reason we don't want Daniel Bryan to be champion is because we don't want people to start thinking WWE is becoming like Ring of Honor and independent, all these other independent wrestling promotions. Or something like that. Basically, they don't want WWE to end up being like those. Get some realism in it. And, you know, as far as Daniel Bryan goes, you want to make him anti-establishment, you really want to put him over, let him, I guess you could say, to borrow a term, let him pipe bomb. Let him work shoot on the McMahons, on Triple H, on Randy Orton. Like, let's say with Randy, say, well, at least at least I would have been a champion with no, that's not on the last legs or down to the last strike, knowing that if I mess up, knowing that if I strike out, I'm going to end up being fired. Or something like, or at least I'm not a bunch of worrywarts. At least I'm not a bunch of worrywarts that has to, because the ratings of the flagship show is not doing so well that they have to show up on television to make the ratings go up. Or I have an ego so big that I have to insert myself into a match in which I have no business inserting myself into. I mean, things like that. Things like that, to me, would really help this out. Because think about it. You put realism in it by having Daniel Bryan come out and mention maybe that fact that Randy's down to his last strike and that if he messes up one more time, he's gone. And they might as well just vacate the title. Or mention the fact that the reason the McMahons and Triple H are on television now and involving themselves so much in the show is because of the ratings, of the fact that Raw's ratings haven't been that good. Or some. And with Triple H and Stephanie and Vince, at least having them come out and say, hey, look, we just don't want the WWE title to be be defended in the mid-card anymore. Or we don't want people to think the WWE is becoming like Ring of Honor and all these other independent wrestling promotions. Do something that puts some realism in it. And if you do that, I guarantee people will tune in and watch, and they'll be wondering, wow, what's next? I mean, pretty much last night, WWE pretty much last night established the direction that the storyline's going in. Pretty much established who the key players on the anti-establishment side are going to be. And you know what's funny, though? They target Big Show, right? I'm going to love the fact that Big Show maybe, and this would be a good idea, throws in the fact that he's an ironclad contract, so he can do whatever he wants. So let's say, if they allow it, let's say he can choke slam Vince down or threaten to throw Vince off of somewhere unless they comply to something. That could work. To me, it's just what it is, and I think it will work if they add in more work shoot elements. To me, it would work. Those are the kind of elements that would get me to tune in. But the thing is, unless that happens, it's still the same rehashed storyline we've seen before. And again, I look on Facebook, a lot of these IWC groups on Facebook, and a lot of the YWCs, I'm pretty sure, and they're pretty much feeling the same way. It's the same rehashed storyline, just with different players and different positions, just with the same players or different players in similar positions or different positions, different anti-hero, whatever. It's still the same stuff. And if it's going to build up to WrestleMania, to let's say Shawn Michaels probably faces Triple H and says, hey, if I beat you, Triple H, then you have to retire as COO and you can never, ever enter office again. And that's fine. I mean, I think, honestly, what this is leading towards is the fact that sooner or later, we're going to have a Raw and a SmackDown with no authorities on TV, and it's just going to be the wrestlers, the superstars, going out doing their jobs. And the only time you see maybe a general manager or so is when they're saying, okay, this is what you're going to get at the pay-per-view. That's about it. And I'm not saying that because I want to see it happen, but I feel that's the direction they're going in. And going on 10 years, when we get to WrestleMania 30, they're going to use the same tagline of where it begins again. And basically, that's going to be where it all begins again. It's going to be a new era that we enter. So, to me, I think that's the reason this. So to me, this is what this entire storyline is. It's the same stuff over and over. I mean, I can't help it if I live on the West Coast and the HD channel that the USA HD channel that used to broadcast Raw live around 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, now broadcasted at 8 o'clock at the same time as the standard depth channel, I can't help it if I end up reading the spoilers or the results as they happen. I mean, to me, it's more like the fact that, even the people backstage are like, why are we doing this same situation? Backstage at WWE, they're looking at what happened. They're like, why are we doing this? And to me, it's basically the fact that I think, in my honest opinion, that they're running out of ideas. I mean, they have some fresh ideas. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the Wyatt family is basically a fresh retake on what Waylon Mercy was supposed to be, but even better. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. That's an established idea. That's a great idea. A redoing of what Waylon Mercy was supposed to be, but even better. The fact is, for me, it's going to take something happening during the live results. If I read something that says Daniel Bryan is basically threatening to, let's say, break Vince McMahon's arm or something like that unless he gets a rematch one-on-one with Randy by himself, no jokes, no interferences, no nothing, then that would be something to tune in for. But basically, this is nothing more than an anti-establishment kind. But this is nothing more than a rehashing of what we've seen before. We've seen it in WCW, we've seen it with the Attitude Era, we've seen it in TNA, in even Ring of Honor. How many times are we going to see this kind of storyline rehashed over and over, just with different players in different positions? How many times are we going to see it? See, that's what I want to know. That's what I want to know, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Now again, there are fans that are going to like this, or liking what the direction WWE's going in, but what they don't understand is there's a lot of longtime fans like myself that have seen this before. That's why we tune the product out. And I'm not going to tune out WWE. I'm still going to record it and still watch and try to keep up with what's going on. But you know what this is going to do? And I know people don't want to hear this. It's going to cause people that have seen this kind of storyline before, that pretty much know what the result's going to be, what the ending climax is going to be to the story angle. You know what it's going to do? It's going to cause them to tune out Raw, wait a few days, and watch Impact. That's what it's going to do. They're going to tune out of WWE, probably do what I'm going to do, probably watch what's going on Hulu, probably download it and then record it, whatever, but they're going to pretty much pay attention to what's going on in Impact instead. Heck, Impact's got me more interested in what's going to happen on Thursday, even though I know what's going to happen. I'd rather watch that, knowing what we're going to get, and knowing that it's going to be a good thing, whether the rating reflects it or not afterwards, instead of seeing the same stuff over and over again. Now, I will give WWE credit. They did kind of throw the so-called Reddit spoiler, or Reddit spoilist, off guard. They did throw them off guard. But, if that's what this is, if this is going to turn out to be a WWE corporate situation versus the internet community, or the internet wrestling community saying, hey, if this is what you like, we're going to give you something else, then you know what? Fine. Let it be that storyline or something. But you know what would be even more interesting? What would be more interesting is if they added something to this, an element that would be so out of the blue. If they added an element to where if Daniel Bryan beat Randy Orton down the line, then not only does he become champion, but because of the loss, Randy Orton has to agree to go compete in several independent wrestling promotions in different venues like armories and high school gyms that Daniel Bryan would pick out for him, so he could understand where Daniel Bryan came from, or why Daniel Bryan's doing what he's doing. That would be an interesting concept, an interesting element to add into the angle. And that would get people tuning in, because that way they'd be able to say, okay, let's see Randy Orton's first match on this independent blah 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 show, and see how he did. And let's say they show that footage and Randy ends up losing, it would work for the Randy Orton character, because then he would come out, heel, tweener, whatever, come out and say, now I have a better understanding of why Randy, something like, you know, I competed in all these independent shows that Daniel Bryan picked out for me to do. And as many of you have seen, I've lost in a few of them. So now I have an understanding that maybe, just maybe, there are certain wrestlers outside of WWE that might be better than a lot of us. And again, to me, that would work. Something like that would work. Because it would help establish Randy's character to where he'd be like, look, I know you wanted me to be your champion, and I was, but I've been competing in all these areas. I have an understanding now of why Daniel Bryan wants change into WWE, why he wants the wrestling focused on more than anything. And even if maybe that angle would end up slowly turning Randy back to babyface, but guess what? It would work because it basically make it look like, because basically, from a storyline aspect, Randy would be like, I've just been used because these guys don't want certain people to be champion, they want their champions. But again, I don't know. Maybe that will happen, maybe that won't. But to me, that would work. But again, as far as I'm concerned, it's just the same storyline rehashed over and over again. You wonder why I haven't been watching Impact that much? Aces and Eights and against Impact Wrestling is the same thing we've seen over and over again. It's just an outside group trying to take over. That's it. And to me, that's not bad. It's just we've seen it before. And we know what the end result's going to be. But right now, pretty much it's going to be a little bit more interesting than what's going on with Raw. And again, I'm not saying, and again, as I said in my Facebook thing, and I will provide a link to it, I'm not saying this angle, this storyline angle, is not going to get Daniel Bryan over more than he already is. It will. It'll get him over more than he already is. It'll make him a bigger star. It'll make him as Jeff Sheagle would say, a member of the Breakfast Club. It will. But to me, I think it's more along the lines of the fact that Daniel Bryan, storyline-wise, is going to use the fact that Randy Orton depended on somebody to attack him from behind instead of facing him man-on-man. And you know what would be even more funny? Is they added a stipulation to a match, which would make things interesting for people to tune in. Like, let's say if I would like to see Daniel Bryan get the entire locker room to say, hey, we're all willing to walk out, leave you guys without a roster. Hey, we hear there's a place down in Nashville that would like to have us. And basically force the hands of this new, as some people would say, Corporation 2.0 into doing what they want, into doing his bidding, into doing what he wants. Like, let's say giving him a one-on-one match with Randy and Randy alone, probably making it a submission match, and then adding the stipulation that if he wins, then the McMahons and Triple H cannot interfere in the wrestling business, in the wrestler's business anymore. Again, that would make things interesting. And maybe he can add in the fact that, hey, he gets his rematch, but if he gets screwed over, he gets a match with Triple H at Battleground or at Hell in a Cell. To me, it would work. To me, it would be worth watching. To me, I'm not saying the angle won't make him a bigger star than he already is. It will. It's just the fact that right now it's the same thing we've seen before. Over and over and over again, and you pretty much know what the damn result's going to be in the end. I mean, true, you're going to have different elements here and there, but unless they add in some of the things that I've mentioned, people are going to start tuning it out, probably doing what I do, and just check it up on Hulu Plus, rewind certain parts, watch what they want to watch, and then end it, because they already know and heard what happened. Or they're going to download it through a freaking torrent, or through the YT, courtesy of KeepFit.com, and then record it, or something. But the thing is, they're going to tune it out because they're not going to want to see it. It's going to pretty much be the same thing over and over again. And as far as ratings go, a majority of the ratings come from this section of the United States, the western part of the United States. It's a huge part. New York, California is a huge ratings base for them. And they know it. The East Coast is too, but California's got, it's the bigger state, in the fact that it's basically, the ratings portion here in the western part of the country is what matters. And slowly but surely, those ratings are going to plummet because people pretty much know it's the same damn storyline. And again, unless they add in some of the things they suggested, those ratings are going to plummet. They got to switch this storyline up. Do something. I mean, if this is a way to, down the line, get Shawn Michaels to come out of retirement and have one match with Triple H at WrestleMania, fine, go ahead and do it. But to me, it's just not worth watching right now live. I mean, it's worth watching when you record it, so that way you can say this is when it happened, but it's not worth watching. So to me, it's just the same storyline rehashed over again. Just different elements, different people in different positions. So that's all I'm going to say on it. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. You may or may not agree with me, but let me know what you guys think. And I'll talk to you later. Video response if you like, but I'll talk to you later.